I'm Young Buzz, welcome back to the channel where we dive into everything K-pop, drama, and all the buzzing stories you don't want to miss. Today, we're talking about a massive milestone for ENHYPEN that has not only hyped up their fans worldwide, but also proved once again why they are one of the fastest rising K-pop groups right now. And trust me, this one is really special because it's about their very first European tour. So let's talk about it. ENHYPEN just wrapped up their European tour called Walk the Line, with their final stop at the legendary Accor Arena in Paris, France. Can you imagine being there? The energy, the lights, the screams from thousands of ends, it must have been electric. They performed for 150 minutes, and not just a few songs. No, they went all out with 24 songs. That's basically giving fans 2.5 hours of pure ENHYPEN experience. They started with Browse the Heat Back and Fever, and honestly, what a way to kick things off. If you're an engine, you know that once Fever comes on, the whole vibe changes. It's smooth, it's intense, and it sets the mood perfectly. But here's something that really stood out to me. They performed their first English song, Loose, and also sang some of their hits like Sweet Venom, XO, and Bad Desire in English for their local fans. That shows just how much they thought about the audience. Imagine being a fan in Europe, maybe not fluent in Korean, and suddenly your favorite group is singing in English just so you can connect more deeply. That's a next-level fan service, and I think it's one of the reasons why K-pop groups like ENHYPEN build such strong connections worldwide. And let's not forget the engines. They didn't just watch quietly, they brought the full K-pop concert experience with them. When the intro for Bite Me and Mo or Do started playing, fans went all out with the traditional Korean fan chants. In Paris. I love that. It shows how global the K-pop culture has become. Fans aren't just listening to the songs, they're learning the chants, the fan culture, and bringing that same energy to arenas halfway across the world. Now here's the part I found super touching. Even after the concert ended, the fans weren't ready to go home. They stayed, chanting for an encore, wanting to squeeze out every last moment with the boys. That's when you know a concert wasn't just good, it was unforgettable. The connection between the artist and the fans goes beyond just music. It becomes a memory, a shared experience. And speaking of memories, the members themselves got really emotional. They said, "Our month-long tour in the US and Europe has come to an end. Thank you for decorating the last stage with us." I love that wording, decorating the last stage. It makes it sound like the fans weren't just watching, but actively part of the performance. And honestly, that's so true. Without the fans' energy, the cheering, the singing, the lights, the whole experience wouldn't be the same. They also mentioned that every stage left a good memory, and that they hoped it was just as memorable for engines who came. And honestly, judging by the reaction, I think it's safe to say the fans are going to remember this forever. But here's what made this tour even more incredible. It wasn't just the fans who were impressed. Local media in Europe also paid attention. GQ magazine Germany described it as a dark romance between K-pop stars ENHYPEN. Now tell me that doesn't sound like the perfect tagline for ENHYPEN. Dark, mysterious, romantic, that's basically their brand in a nutshell. And GQ wasn't just throwing compliments, they specifically mentioned how the show combined elaborate staging, dramatic direction, and precise choreography. That's high praise. And it didn't stop there. The BBC called ENHYPEN one of K-pop's top groups, pointing out the crazy long lines of fans that formed early in the morning. Think about that for a second. Fans waiting hours before the show, lined up just to see them live. That kind of dedication is insane, but also, it says everything about ENHYPEN's pull right now. Their tour started in London on July 23rd and covered 6 major cities: London, Manchester, Amsterdam, Brussels, Berlin, and finally Paris. And get this, every single show was sold out. First European tour, and they managed to attract a total of 78,000 fans. For a group that only debuted in 2020, that's massive. Now let's pause here for a moment. This isn't just about numbers or media praise. I think ENHYPEN's success with this tour shows us something bigger about the future of K-pop. A lot of people outside the fandom bubble still think BTS and BLACKPINK are the only groups dominating globally. And while they are legends in their own right, the new generation is coming in strong. ENHYPEN proving they can sell out arenas across Europe on their first try? That's no small feat. It means the fan base is strong, the music is connecting, and the demand is real. And personally, I find this really exciting. Because when one group breaks through like this, it opens the door for other fourth-gen groups to follow. It's almost like ENHYPEN is proving the blueprint. Yes, it's possible. Yes, the audience is there. And yes, people want more K-pop in their cities. What do you think, though? If you're watching this, let me ask you, do you think ENHYPEN is on their way to becoming the next global household name in K-pop, like BTS or BLACKPINK? Or do you think their appeal is more niche, appealing mainly to younger fans right now? I'd love to hear your thoughts because honestly, both perspectives have interesting points. Let's also talk about how ENHYPEN managed to balance their set list. Performing 24 songs isn't easy. That takes stamina, planning, and discipline. But they didn't just perform the songs the same way they always do. They adjusted for the local fans by singing in English. And that, to me, shows their awareness as artists. They're not just thinking, we'll sing what we always sing. They're asking, how can we make this special for the people who came here today? That kind of adaptability is what makes a group go from good to legendary. And I think that's why so many fans feel so connected to ENHYPEN. They give back as much as they receive. For example, when NGENS in Paris started chanting with the Korean cheering method, the boys could feel that energy. It's like a cultural bridge being built through music. That's so powerful when you think about it. Music has always been a universal language, but when fans on another continent are learning your culture's way of cheering, and you as artists are singing in their language, that's cultural exchange on the highest level. Now, I don't know about you, but I keep imagining what it must have been like to be in that arena. The lights going down, the first beat of Browse the Heat Back hitting, and the entire crowd screaming in unison. Goosebumps, right? That's the kind of moment fans live for. And ENHYPEN delivered it 6 times across 6 different cities. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of fans traveled between cities just to experience it more than once. And here's the thing. This tour wasn't even their finale. ENHYPEN is still continuing Walk the Line in Asia. They're heading to Singapore next month for 3 days at the indoor stadium, and then wrapping it all up in Seoul at the KSPO Dome later in September. And if you've been following K-pop, you know the KSPO Dome is no small venue. It's legendary. So ending their tour there feels very symbolic. It's like coming full circle, going out into the world, conquering new stages, and then returning home for the grand finale. What I also find fascinating is how quickly ENHYPEN has reached this point. Remember, they only debuted in late 2020. That's just a few years ago, and already they're selling out arenas in Europe. Some groups take almost a decade to get there. This just proves not only their talent, but also the strength of their fandom, NGEN. I feel like this fandom deserves as much recognition as the boys themselves, because without their constant support, none of this would be possible. And let's be real, touring is tough. The schedule is grueling, the rehearsals are endless, and the physical demand is insane. Yet every performance looked polished, emotional, and powerful. That's the mark of true professionalism. They're not just idols anymore. They're performers, entertainers, and artists who know how to command a stage. I also want to point out something about the media recognition. GQ and BBC are not small outlets. When publications like that highlight ENHYPEN as one of K-pop's top groups, it signals to the general public that they should start paying attention. It's almost like a stamp of approval that says, yes, this group is worth watching. And once that kind of momentum builds, it usually doesn't stop. It snowballs. But let me throw this question back to you. Do you think ENHYPEN is ready to headline even bigger venues, maybe stadiums, in their next world tour? Or do you think they should build up slowly, one arena at a time, to make sure their growth is steady? Because if you ask me, I think they're capable of pulling off a stadium show sooner than later. Their fandom is that powerful. But at the same time, there's something magical about arenas, more intimate, more connected. I'd love to know what kind of venues you prefer for concerts too. And one last thought before we wrap this up. K-pop is clearly entering a new chapter. groups like ENHYPEN are no longer just testing the waters overseas, they're dominating them. Europe used to be considered a hard market for K-pop, but clearly not anymore. 78,000 fans, sold-out shows, and mainstream media coverage? That's a success story by any standard. And it makes me so curious about who's next. Will other fourth-gen groups like TXT, Stray Kids, or even newer ones follow this path and expand deeper into Europe? So to close things out, ENHYPEN's first European tour wasn't just a milestone for them, but also for K-pop as a whole. It showed that the demand is global, the fans are passionate, and the music really does transcend borders. For NGENS, this tour will be unforgettable. For ENHYPEN, it's proof that their hard work is paying off. And for the rest of us watching from the outside, it's a reminder that K-pop is not slowing down anytime soon. And with that, I want to hear from you. If you were at any of these concerts, please tell us what it was like. What was your favorite performance? How did it feel being part of that crowd? And if you weren't able to go, which song would you have wanted to see live the most? Let's make the comment section a place to share stories and connect, just like ENHYPEN connects with their fans worldwide. All right, that's it for today's Anyang Buzz. Thanks for hanging out with me. And as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed this deep dive into ENHYPEN's first European tour. Until next time, keep buzzing with the best of K-pop.